group. Right now would be the time. Ma'am, I missed from your stunning list of accomplishment a few of more things. So do I have the opportunity to share it with the world? Do I have your permission, ma'am, because you're the boss lady here? She's received the Women Empowerment Principles Leadership Award by Asia One and United Nations Global Compact UAE. And she's also been recognized as one of the 10 most powerful women rising star by Business Today, and is also Asia's most admired business leaders at the Asia Pacific Leadership Conclave by White Page International. So without further ado, a big round of applause for Mrs. Amisha Vora. Ma'am, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be here amongst all of you as India celebrates its 75th year of independence. And it is even bigger honor to be amongst us, having some of the dignitaries that we have on the dais and also in front of me. Most of the stuff which probably I wanted to say, Alok has covered in his speech, all about India, India, India. To summarize that, I would say that now is the time when globally anybody wants to do a business, he has to be in India. Anybody wants their assets to grow, their investments have to be in India. And beyond all, if anybody wants to grow spiritually, they also need to visit India. I think this is a decade which globally India is going to lead. And if Alok, you can give me permission, then I can start my presentation. Do you think it's a possibility? I can cover it without it also. We are confident enough to dream to be the developed nations. And that journey of being the developed nation is crossing the critical $10,000 per capita which any developed nation enjoys. And that dream is also laid on certain foundations. And it seems that we are working on it, seeing very clearly from how being the 13th largest economy just 20 years ago to being the 5th largest and inching towards the 3rd largest, leaving behind the always dreaded China and of course leaving behind UK, which always ruled us. Here is the crux of why we think this is the golden decade for India. A decade like this is experienced before by Japan in 1970s, when they rose from $2,000 per capita to $10,000 in a matter of 12 years. South Korea in 1980s, and also grew at an astonishing rate of 15%. Then comes China, and they ruled, and they grew at a rate of 13% in 2000s, and that decade turned the complete picture. Why we think this is the decade for India? As you can see, we always used to say that we have demography in favor of us. What does that really mean? Median age of our population is 28.5 years, while that for UK is 40, China 38, US 38. And as you can see in the graph in front of you, come 2030, we will be having the largest working population in the world, and China will decline substantially. And that is where, when the working population is with you, they earn, they spend, they feed. It's not the government that has to feed. And this demography, if we want to take the dividends out of that demography, we have unleashed unmatched reforms, which most of you are aware, which are on the 4 key pillars of formalization, with GST, RERA, and so on. We have formalized our economy to a great extent, thereby giving opportunity to all to be credit-worthy. And it is this capital which comes to an individual or an organization by being credit-worthy, which allows them to grow. Of course, digitization is at the center of it, with Aadhaar, Internet, and UPI. Above all, demonetization, which led to complete financialization of our economy. And as you can see, even today and last year, when FIs were continuously selling, it was the domestic savings channelized through mutual funds and otherwise which countered the fall in the markets and also supported the capital raising by most of the corporates. Above all, any economy to be the global center of production needs to be economical in terms of its infrastructure, and we are sparing no stone unturned for our metros, airports, and smart cities. So on the center of this path-breaking reforms, we see the foundation laid for the golden decade for India. I may not go too much in detail about most of these, which quite a few of you are knowing and experiencing, but I will take up one important thing here, that apart from PLI scheme, which is unleashing the manufacturing growth in India, and also the defense, where from being an export-oriented defense to manufacturing for our own country and to exporting for the world, the biggest reform in next 10 years will be in agri-economy. Every sector is very meticulously planned, but agri-economy, which is 70% of our population, will see drones mapping these surfaces with the weather data, AI saying which month, which land to sow which product, and nano-urea or nano fertilizer, not only reducing our dependence on imports of fertilizer and subsidy, but also making our crops more health-worthy. This transformation, which is going to get unleashed over next decade in our agrarian economy, will bring the standards of 70% of Indian population up, thereby creating the markets for most of you sitting here and leading your businesses. I think apart from that, the complete turnaround, which is expected in cost of logistics to make our Indian economy competitive, and the efforts undertaken for, be it the freight corridors, to bring ultimately the model transport between the road and railways to a very fair degree in favor of railways, to many more interestingly linked initiatives, will make our economy very, very competitive in the global manufacturing base. To conclude, I would firmly say that and not to forget that this entire growth is based on extremely sound macro and micro financials. So today, corporate balance sheets are the most robust in terms of their debt to equity and leverage. Government balance sheet is equally robust, with the revenue generation rising by the month. And above all, the individual balance sheets of Indians is still not as leveraged as you would see in some of the leading global developed economies. So all three are capable of investing and spending, which will lead the growth for this decade in India. Not to forget, we are not forgetting the initiatives on going green. And during our session, of course, we will deep dive into that. But we have taken an audacious target of 50% of our energy being non-fossil fuel. Itself will make sure we first ride with the capex cycle and then also reap the fruit of being environment friendly. All this and more leads to financialization of our savings, which is the only single source which supports all the industry for the equity capital markets. With all this, I am not only seeing this as the golden decade for India, but also believe very firmly that this will be a multi-decadal growth, and the roots of it and the foundation of it is so strong that no external forces will be able to derail the strong growth path which our economy has taken. With this, I myself have taken a call in my own business, and I very strongly believe that all of us should just unleash our potential completely, dream as big as we can and beyond, and harness the power of our own economy and also in turn contribute to our economy. Thank you so very much, everyone.